Afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the term one event for the Central Queensland GEG for 2019. We've got teachers this afternoon joining us from across the district, tuning in from Mackay in the north, down to Bundaberg and Gladstone in the south, and all the way out to Longreach. We've also got a really great panel of presenters, but we'll come to those guys very, very shortly. So Google Educator Groups are communities of educators who share, inspire, empower each other to meet the needs of students through technology solutions, both in the classroom and beyond. It's run by educators and for educators. GEGs are independent communities to which the Google group is the primary partner and the inspiration. GEGs are for any educator who's passionate about meeting the needs of their students through technology solutions and collaborating with other educators who feel the same way. Essentially, this is all about collective teacher efficacy, working together to improve outcomes for kids in our classes. For our first event for 2019 for the Central Queensland GEG, we're lucky to have you with us this afternoon. But we also have some really special presenters who've given up their time to share some of their favourite Googliness. We're indebted to have Devon Rossiter, Michelle McIntosh, Lorraine Wolfe, Riaz Shahid, Liz Hopkinson and Bonnie Cooper joining us to present a range of topics for both primary schools and colleges. Before I introduce our first presenter, you can participate in this afternoon's session. It doesn't have to just be a sit and get thing. We have a back channel that you can use. I'll just share that link with you so you can know where to find it. And I hope you can see that there now. So that's a bit.ly, which takes us to exactly what's happening. I've also shared some of the presentations or the links to the presentations. So if you either want to grab that by writing down after the bit.ly, it's /206 IHNR, and obviously it's case sensitive. If you want to take a picture on your camera or just write that down. So you can use that to ask questions of our presenters. It's a little bit difficult to find a platform where everyone can to be asking questions, but this is a really easy way to go about that. So hopefully you've got that, and we'll make sure that we, whenever we're asking questions, we do that respectfully because everyone has access to that and can see the questions that are there. So let's get into it. So our first presenter this afternoon is Devon Rossiter. Devon is an academic coach based out of Bakersfield in California with a unique background in broadcast media. Originally from Staten Island, Devon supports teachers across California's largest K-8 district in understanding the strategic depth of conceptual reasoning and discourse. Devon co-hosts the long-running television program Do the Math in Bakersfield, is a former professional ice hockey announcer and has presented nationally and internationally on mathematical language routines and techniques for integrating video into instruction. So Devon, over to you.
Well, Paul, thank you so much, and good afternoon to everybody watching. Calling in from Bakersfield, as you mentioned, in California. We're looking at approximately 10:30 at night here, and so I appreciate the opportunity to kind of kick things off here, because tomorrow is a working day and we're right in the middle of our testing season. You know, I wanted to focus a little bit on math, and I wanted to play around with some very Google-ish tools. So if it's all right with you guys, I'm going to go ahead and share the other camera so that I can visualize the setup I have here that I built using the Tour Builder. Tour Builder is a newer feature that Google's rolled out to kind of allow us to jump around here. And, you know, Paul mentioned a little bit of my background, but I figured I would kind of use Tour Builder to kind of illustrate my backstory. Again, there's my contact information. Feel free to follow me on Twitter, reach out to me at my email address there, or check out my blog at justgoodmath.com. You know, this last year in particular has taken me to a lot of really wonderful places. That photo in particular is a new one from Chicago this past St. Patrick's Day. Wonderful sight. They turned the river green, and then that basically turned into their parade route. If you've never been, I recommend it. So I kind of want to get started with, as Paul mentioned, where, you know, I kind of began. and that's in Staten Island, New York. I was born in 1982. I went to public school, then Catholic school, then public school. Very kind of shaky kind of upbringing. But there was one constant for me growing up, and that was the storytellers in my life. Not just my immediate family who made it a craft of it, but I fell asleep every night listening to sports radio. Major League Baseball, NBA, professional hockey, like those were my bedtime stories. And I would be able to wake up and know everything that happened the night before. And it was it was fascinating to me, the ability to tell a story, not just with descriptive detail for somebody who couldn't see what was happening, but using the numbers, the stats to really tell the story short term and long term. And so that was kind of my drive, my motivation to pursue that as kind of a dream path career. So I applied to and attended Northeastern University in Boston. It's a 5-year university, but I got to basically become a part of the Boston sports scene. I was a producer for the Boston Red Sox when they won the World Series for the first time in 86 years. That's one of my professors, who is also the announcer for the Red Sox, longtime play-by-play voice for the team. I got to be there for a lot of history-making moments and really dive in and learn by doing. And that was a big influence on what would later become my career in education. And one of my goals was to use education to pursue what I wanted to as a dream. And thanks to the work I put in and the connections I was able to make through my college experience, I was able to attain that dream. My first job out of college was as the play-by-play voice of the Bakersfield Condors. Now, what a lot of people don't know about Bakersfield is that there is no veritable reason why this town should have a successful hockey team. It is 110 degrees in July. It is arid. There's no natural ice, nor has there been in decades. And yet it was an environment where I was able to apply my craft and really live out that dream and be close to a lot of really fascinating moments. And, through that lens, I was able to jump into education. And it was great because it allowed me to apply a lot of direct connections as far as engaging an audience, but also through application. And I ended up focusing a lot on math during my educational career. I worked as a curriculum specialist. I designed a lot of Common Core strategies that are visual, resources to support our teachers. And reflecting back through this opportunity, there were 3 things that really stood out. And I kind of call these my edgy truths. These are the math philosophies that I really apply. And I've been able to use some of the tools within Google, but also a lot of the other resources that are accessible, not just to anybody who's had a prior career, but to anybody who reaches out and has those connections in their community. And so that kind of launches with number 1, that, my first edgy truth is that community is your richest resource. Whatever community you branch out into. One of my earliest communities that supported my education was an online collective called My Football Club. This is based out of Kent, UK, about an hour outside of London. And what this was a collective of fans that pitched in about 35 British pounds each, about 35,000, and actually bought a 5th Division soccer club in the UK. Now, the idea is you can rise up the ladder and ultimately compete against some of the top tier teams in British football. But what was unique about it was that the membership was allowed to submit proposals and vote upon those. And so I took my voting share and granted it to my students, allowed them to write proposals to analyze the stats of the team and to predict whether or not, based on percentages, that there was a likely outcome that was favorable. And several of my students' proposals were accepted and approved by the membership of the team. Right here is an example of the connections we were able to make. The ownership, the executive board, sent everybody in my class a little wrist bracelet, as well as take a look at some of the postage and promotional materials for the team. So for our kids, this is the first time in their lives where they were able to connect across the Atlantic Ocean. And it was an experience that allowed me to bridge out and interact with the BBC and interview. So for my students, all of a sudden, this great big outside world became something very tangible and it became an opportunity to apply some skills from the classroom using some of the broader tools of communication. Which kind of brings me to my second edutruth, that visibility is equity. When students know that their education is valued not just on campus, but by those off campus, it makes their world much smaller. To kind of tie this in, the reason I zoom into the Melbourne cricket grounds is over the last few years, I've become an aficionado of Aussie rules football. So much so that when we shifted our standards to Common Core, I sought ways to bring in the sport to my campus. So I wrote a series of lessons and shared them through Google Docs with the United States chapter of the Australian Football League, expecting maybe that they would send us some equipment or some gear. But in all actuality, they ended up sending the head coach of the U.S. national team to our campus to interact with our students. And it was just a very unique experience, not just for kids to learn from an expert in the field, but for them to share what they had already learned, and to have the local media come in and ask them what their experiences were. So now all of a sudden, their audience became much more authentic. It wasn't just the same 20 or 30 students in the classroom. This was an audience of thousands watching at home. So it made the learning very real and very connected. And then the third edutruth I really reflect on in my time with math and kind of the previous careers I've worked through is this idea that all learning is real world. The separation of the two is really confounding to me, because then it almost senses that you can only be successful in one or the other. As Paul mentioned, one of my great joys over the last few years has been working with a television show in Bakersfield called Do the Math. For this episode, we were teaching fifth graders about a coordinate grid. And instead of keeping it on paper, we had students actually design their own. And then we took water balloons outside and we played a game of human battleship. So in this retrospect, what we were able to use myself as a target and then watch as students identified how far off their attempts were at striking myself as the target. So you watch as they pace across the x-axis and then up the y and approximate where their attempt landed. And from there, we're using actively the language of x and y coordinates on a live plane. It made the learning very real, as well it should be, and started it off in a very concrete and real-world setting, so that when these kids explore it on graph paper, now all of a sudden, and that one got very, very close. I can tell you the camera got hit maybe twice here. They have a meaningful context to it because it's all real. And if it's not real, what's the action? And the great thing about this show is that we can have people interact with us. It streams live on YouTube every Tuesday and Wednesdays. And when it's real, people take notice. And it's been one of the great joys of my life. This is my daughter actually watching one of my episodes. And I'm going to cherish these opportunities. She just turned 8 years old today. So a lot of the mess here at the dining room table may reflect that. But, looking back on, the experiences I've had, all of us have those connections that we can bring in to make the learning real for our students. And I thank goodness that I teach in the time that we do, because now we have access to more of those opportunities to provide to our kids and make them more meaningful than they've ever been. So thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the time, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the session.
Good on you, Devin. Thanks for that. I mean, there's some great takeaways that I've got from that, and it's just great that you've taken the time, quite late at night there in California, to join us and to be able to share what's happening in your part of the world, because that's what makes teaching and learning real, when we can connect with others across the world. So once again, thank you.
Thank you for having me. Have a wonderful evening, afternoon. Time's relative.
Good on you. Thank you.
Great presentation.
So our next presenter is Riaz Shahid. So Riaz has been an educational technology specialist since 1997, having served at the American International School in Dhaka, the International School of Tanganyika in Tanzania, and he's currently at Chateau St. Mary's School at Forest City, Malaysia. Facilitating teacher-led workshops to advocate a paperless environment, he's helped schools successfully achieve the objective of establishing an academic setup where technology is efficiently integrated to maximise the potential of 21st century learners. At Shattuck St Mary's in Malaysia, his task is to help build a technology infrastructure from the ground up to achieve the educational mission of the institution, and they've taken the first step in that direction by migrating to G Suite as their core messaging and learning management system. So, Riaz, over to you.
Well, thank you, and welcome, and thank you everyone for giving me the time. Unlike in Devon's, we are here at 1:45 p.m., so I'm good. Just had my lunch, so um, um, so yeah, so we're ready to go. Well, as Paul was saying that I've been working with. I don't exactly teach in the classrooms, but I've been working with teachers and educators per se in the classrooms, helping them integrate technology in all kinds of forms, and over the last 20 years. And having done that in schools like the school in Dhaka, which is a K-12 international school, and then the school in Tanzania for 1 year. And so my task has been to sort of help them integrate as much as technological tools available in the around, and then help them sort of achieve a learning goal for the students. Primarily, what the school that I'm currently right now in is a startup school. As I was explaining to Paul, that it's the parent school being in Minnesota, and what they have done is that they've gone into a partnership with this Chinese conglomerate, and it's called Country Garden, and they have an education division, which has now opened a branch here in Malaysia. And our population of students is, they mostly range from China, with, of course, with basically almost no to very low English background. And so one of the core sort of educational or teaching challenges that the teachers have is that they need to make, as far as the instructions are concerned, as much visual and as easy to sort of incorporate in their curriculum or whatever materials that they use in the classrooms. Now you have to understand that in a place like China, where of course where most of the students are coming from, Google was something completely new. Of course, because of the political situations or whatever restrictions that they have had over the last few years. So moving into what they had in the past, or what they originally had planned for as a learning management system like Office 365. So moving into something like Google was a bit of a cultural resistance in there, in a sense. I mean, it was kind of looked upon with a lot of questions, and I think because they haven't used it before. So that was the initial challenge. But then, since we have teachers who are practically are expats coming from the United States, and some of them I think are also from the UK, and so that also helped. And my job has been in a way kind of made easier, because they were educators with a bit of background in Google as well, but also to make them understand and see the connection between the learning here with the Chinese students mostly. So what I have done, basically what I'm going to show here in this particular session here, is that what I do on part of my regular gig, sort of, I send out this Tuesday tech tips to teachers almost every week. And in those tech tips, I share excerpts from my own blog, and I draw a lot of materials from people like Eric Kurtz. If you have used about Richard Byrne, they have these blog posts available, called Free Technology for Teachers, and I sort of collect them together and put them in one email in a kind of a very short TIFF sort of presentation, and then kind of help them or show them how they could use them in the classroom. So there is one, for this session, I have selected one particular tip that I would like to share with you. And it's basically, what we did is that there is a free website called remove.gg. I'm sure most of you probably have heard of it, but it's a tool that lets you modify your, a very simple, easy to use, no rocket science in that sense, to change the background of a picture, for instance. Kids here, by the way, especially the Chinese kids, are really almost, they use the smartphones to a level of that I have not seen before. it's very difficult to keep them away from the smartphones and all that. So you know, and so using them for communications or even taking selfies, for instance, it's pretty much a regular feature that you'll see them doing that throughout the campus. So what we thought that, since these kids use the smartphone so much, why not use that as a combination of as a combined tool of taking photographs and then changing the background and then putting them into their learning, where to write creative stories, for instance. So that's what we kind of planned on this one. So here is this. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So here is this website. Hi. So here is this website. Can you see my screen here? Paul?
Sorry, I was just muted. I was talking to myself there for a minute. Yeah, that's all good. Thanks, Raz.
Okay, all right. So there is this website called remove.bg, and it's what we have done. What you can basically do here is that it's a very easy to use free website that will let you change the background of your picture. So I'm going to do that right now. So I'm going to select a photo. Let's say I have a few family pictures. I already have it saved on my desktop, so I'm going to upload it to that website. That's me and my two daughters, and on the right side is my wife. So we took this picture in my daughter's campus in Canada. The one second from the left is my eldest daughter. She'll be graduating this year from the Memorial University in Newfoundland. So we took this picture in front of her campus, and then as I upload it into this website, you'll see that the background of this picture is gone. And you have this new picture without the background. And then I'm going to download this picture on my desktop again. I'm going to call it family1 removebg.png. And you can save it as a PNG or whatever. But essentially, I would save it as a PNG file. Again, save it back on my desktop. Now, here comes the next step in Google. I have Google Slide. This is the tool that I'm going to be using it with. So I have opened a blank slide in my Google's in a new Google Slide file, and if you see the first slide, it doesn't have any background whatsoever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the photo which I just modified with a different background. So here I am on this slide, and I'm going to choose a background from here. I can choose any background, or I would like to have a different background that I can search on the internet as well. So in this particular case, I'm going to just go to the site. I'm going to look for, let's say, Windsor Castle. So here are these different images available, and this is a search through Google, just a regular Google search. And so I'm going to select this one and clicks here, and then click done. As you will see that same background is now available in my slide. Then the next step is I'm going to go back to the Google Slide tool up here at the menu called Insert, and then choose the image which I just modified a little while ago. I had saved it on my desktop, and I call it family1 removebg.png. And I can shrink the size or resize the picture and all that. So here I am in front of the Windsor Castle. Now you can either download this whole picture with this new background. Either you can save it as a download as a PNG or a JPEG, or a completely brand new website image. Or if you would like, you can also create this whole slide, create a new slide, and especially in a classroom where if you want to have students practicing writing creative stories about their latest adventure or the latest summer break or whatever they're on, you could use this same tool with the combination of Google Slide, and then put your picture and write a story about Windsor Castle. So, and we thought that this was, this requires very, just some basic skills about dragging and dropping and all that. And because it's part of the whole Google process, Google presentation process, it also doesn't take that much training in terms of for the teachers to implement in the classroom. So that's pretty much it.
Well, that's great, Raz. I mean, it's a cheap way to take a holiday.
Exactly. And so so that's just one of the things that I was sharing with the teachers to practice creative writing for students in grade 4 and 6, and I thought that was that, as I said, that since it requires very basic skills, and for both the teachers and the students, it would really they would find it easier to sort of implement it in their classrooms. Yeah.
That's terrific, Raz. That's a really accessible tool that I think every one of us is able to use in our classes, whether it's from year 1 to wherever.
Exactly.
And it's not always easy to get tools like Photoshop to be able to do that. And This is a heck of a lot easier than using Photoshop.
Right.
So thanks again, Raz, and great that you could join us from Malaysia.
Sure.
So now we move on to Lorraine Wolf. So Lorraine's the Assistant Principal of Curriculum at Chanel College. In her current role, she has responsibilities that encompass curriculum development in the college, with a current particular focus on developing technology and the quality of teacher practice and student learning. In education, she is passionate about integrating technology into the contemporary classroom and providing students with the skills that they need to engage with the world as lifelong learners. She's currently a Level 2 certified Google educator and an Edpuzzle coach. So over to you, Lorraine.
Good. Thanks very much, Paul. Hi, everyone. I guess we've been a G Suite school for quite a number of years, and one of our main things is that we use Google Classroom all the time. So we're very excited when we find products that we can integrate very seamlessly by using Google Classroom. So every time we find one of these products, it's just an absolute dream, and also, to develop our learning materials. So I'll just share my screen with you. And I'll just get rid of that. How's that? Is that okay? Yep.
That's excellent. Thanks.
Yep. So I wanted to just showcase insert learning today, and a couple of things that brings it together to be able to use very quickly with your Google Classroom. So I guess the very first thing is to have an account with Insert Learning. And if you are a school that uses Google Classroom, you can easily import your classes and set up a class within this environment. So when you click on the Classes tab, and if you wanted to create a new class, you can create the class, give it a name, but just down here you'll see you can actually import that classroom from Google Classroom. So it will sync for you. So I'm just going to cancel that because I have already set up this, what I've called workshop class. I use this to teach all of my teachers at school how to use Google Classroom. So it's all sitting up there ready to go. The other thing you have to do is to actually go into the web store and Google Chrome Web Store and grab the Insert extension here so that it will sit up on your toolbar as well. So that's up here in the corner, ready to go as well. So before you can get into this sort of world, you need to make sure that you've done those two things, is created your account in Insert Learning and then have that extension ready to go up here. So that's the backstory to setting it up. But I might be looking at the moment to do some work with getting students to do some reading on frogs. So I've just picked something simple today. And in that, I found a fantastic website that I want students to have a read of. And but I don't want them to just read it. I want them to interact with the website. So to do that, I will click on my extension up here so that my Insert Learning now has access to this particular website. And you will notice, oh, not now, sorry. I'll just do that again. They want some, you can get free ones. There we go. So that was you'll see now, oh no, not sure why it's doing that. Yep, play that this time. Maybe that will work. Of course, it always has to be here now. I'll try another website. Maybe there's something going on there. We can pick another Frogs website. Otherwise, I'll just grab one that I've used before. So we'll use the geographic this time. Let's see. No, it looks like it's going to do the same. Sorry about this. I'll go into one that I have got.
It's Murphy's Law, Lorraine.
Oh, of course it is, and it's going to keep doing it now. So maybe I've reached my, oh, there we are, loaded the one that I've used before. So this is one actually I've used currently this week in my a Year 12 class that I teach. So we were looking at asylum seekers and the Catholic Church's response to it. So you will see when you click your Insert Learning up the side, you will see that down to the left, you'll get a set of Insert Learning tools that will pop up. So I now make this particularly interactive. So you can see down here, I've got a little question that's been inserted, but to do that, I will hover over the IL and go down, and I can do any of these ones here. So I might want to insert a question, particularly after the introduction. So I click to show where I would like the question, and I'll write the question stem. They've got some for you to pick from, or you can write your own. So I might get them to paraphrase that there particularly, and then I will create. So now the website actually becomes quite interactive. So when the students, we assign it in Google Classroom, and the students go to use it, they see this website with the things that you've set up there. So you can do questions, you can, maybe you want them to discuss something. So what are your thoughts about the bishop's comment? So, and then I will create that, and it'll give you, you know, the students will get space then to respond, or I might want to just insert a sticky note somewhere. So I might go down a little bit more here on this one, and I might just say, see how this relates to what we have been learning in class. So I can do a few of these sorts of things. There's quite a lot of little choices, and then I can assign it. So I click on the Insert Learning at the top, and rather than assign here to the classes that are being recognised in my Insert Learning one, I can click on the Google Classroom, and it will then open up my classes that are sitting inside Google Classroom. So you can see I have a few. It's already ticked there because it was used. So I tick the workshop class and I share it to these classes. I can share it to how many classes. I might have 4 grade 7 classes that I actually teach. So that's all been my preparation, all set up. It's been sent along to my Google Classroom. I'll go back over here, and we'll see here now that it's posted a new assignment into my Google Classroom. So when the students go in, they'll click on that. It'll open up their instructions, etc. over to here. They click on that, which will then open up the actual website with the insert, what they call now the Insert Learning lesson. So once it loads up, all the things there now are all sitting there like we just made. And that's about it. So that's our Insert Learning, seamlessly working between, except for the first part, working between Google Classroom and, you know, developing relevant content and all of those collaborative tools, which is all I think is absolutely fantastic. All done.
Lorraine, that's terrific. That's a great example of using technology to take something from just substitution element up to augmentation, modification, maybe even redefinition. It really is making technology do something different to get some better outcomes for teaching and learning.
Yes, thank you.
So also join us this afternoon, we're lucky to have with us Elizabeth Hopkinson, slamming all the way from St Bridget's at Emerald. So Liz is a Year 3 teacher. She's been teaching for 25 years across a range of settings, including kindergarten, early years and primary school. She's been fortunate enough to have had opportunities to teach in Australia, Japan and England. She's keen to see technology used to support children to continue to be active learners in the classroom, and is coming to us with great pain this afternoon because she's had a sickie today. So we really do appreciate her being here with us. So thanks, Liz. Over to you.
Hi, thanks, Paul. Okay, as Paul said, I'm very keen on trying to get the students to be active learners in the classroom. So I'm going to show you this afternoon about a Google add-on called Pear Deck. Bonnie, that's not sharing application window. No. Sorry, technical hitch. We did practice. Yeah, it's not. Ah, there we go. Okay. Oh God, it's going to see everything.
So once you've clicked to share,
there it is. Oh, look, sorry, going all over the place. Okay, is that working now?
No, it's black at the moment. So once you've clicked shared, if you go back towards your desktop, you actually have to click on the page that you want to display. So in your browser, you have to actually click on that page.
Yeah, I can see that in mine. I just don't know why you can't see that in yours. Yeah. Jeez Louise. Oh. Can't hear you, Paul.
Do you want to continue just to play and have a bit of a test with that while we might slip over and see how Bonnie's going to go?
Yeah, it does actually say on my screen that I am screen sharing. There's a big green bar across the top.
Yeah. So look, what I would do is I would just close everything else except your browser. Just make sure you've got that. And, you know, all going well, we'll see how we go. But I'll give you a chance just to try to freshen up, and we'll try to give Bonnie a bit of a spin, and hopefully she doesn't disappear on us, and we'll see what happens. So
Okay.
Bonnie's also slamming with us this afternoon from St Bridget's at Emerald. She's been teaching since the beginning of 2018, but before that was an early childhood teacher of 2 to 5 year olds for 6 years. She's excited by technology and how it can enable students on all different learning levels to achieve a common goal. So let's see how it goes with you there, Bonnie.
Thanks, Nick.
Hello, how are we all? So I am going to be sharing today about Book Creator, which is a website that I have used with my students. So I'll flick over to my screen. Hopefully this works. Is that working for you?
Not just at the moment.
At the moment, fantastic.
Oh, now I'm here and it says.
Was your microphone still on?
No, because it says Bonnie has left the call.
No, it's all, we can still see Bonnie and hear Bonnie, but yeah, if you just mute your microphone there, Liz, and we'll see how we go.
I can hear you, Bonnie. I can see you too. Now, do you have split screens? Do you have two
we've only
screens?
got the one screen.
Okay. Because I see that happen sometimes with, like, if you're running 2 screens. Okay, I can see myself on your screen now.
Can you see my screen now?
It's a white window with Google Hangouts. Is that the one?
It should say new book at the bottom.
No.
No. Oh no. We practiced this a minute ago and it worked.
It's that Brucey again.
I can see I'm quite popular.
Oh goodness. Is it working now?
I thought, yeah, is this you getting started with Book Creator?
Yep.
Yeah, that's you. Yeah, we can see you.
Beautiful. Okay. So with Book Creator, I'm going to be telling you 7 wonders of Book Creator. So the first is creating a library. So I create a library whenever I start with a new class. So for today, we will call it a SLAM class and create our library. And then within this, once we get into it, you get an invite code. So your students don't have to create their own library or anything. They will join through your library. So you can pop that code up onto the screen so that all of your students can join in. And then from there, they will each create their own new book and it will all show up in the same library. So when we create a new book, you get different options of how you're going to lay your book out. For today, we will do a landscape. And then from here, all of the things that you can do with it are based in these 3 buttons here. These 2 are the ones that you'll use the most, the plus and the little I for information. So in the plus, we've got these options here. So we can import some images and it comes up with a Google image search as your main option, but you can also insert these other things up here. For today, we will insert an image from Google of a slam dunk. So then all you need to do is select the image that you want to put in there and it will load up on there. And the same as with most, you can resize it and place it where you'd like it. From here, if we click on our eye, then we get all the options to change things on our screen, on our page, sorry. So I can change the background color, and there are also other options that aren't just solid colors. So I could have a marble effect or clouds, whichever I would prefer. So another add-on that we can put into there is some text. So we can call this Google Slam and add that in. So to change this font, if you select on it, so it has the blue box around it, and then go into your information tab, that's where you can make all the changes for it. So I can make it bigger, change the color of it, all from within that little information tab. So to make a new page, you just click on the arrow and it will automatically make a new page for you. Another thing that I can use through here is the camera. So I can, this is the way that I've used it the most, is I have the students hold up a book to the camera and take a photo of it. And then add that picture in. Which takes some time. And then what I will often get them to do, which is the next wonder of Book Creator, is I will get them to record themselves reading. So the main reason that in our age group we get them to do this is to practice their fluency. So I will record myself. The most exciting shot is a slam dunk. To slam dunk, a player has to jump high into the air. Then the player slams the ball through the basket. So once I've recorded that, I can click to use that recording and the little icon will pop up. I can move that away if I don't want it in the middle of my page. And finally, I will add one last page. So again, adding in my background. And I'll add in some text just so that I can show you. So if I add that in, pop him in the middle, One of the best things that the kids love about this website is that you can then get the book to be read to you. So if you click on that play button, then you go read to me. It should read the book to the students so that they can.
Slam.
The most exciting shot is a slam dunk. To slam dunk, a player has to jump high into the air. Then the player slams the ball through the basket.
Thanks for joining in my Google Slam.
And that is all that I have to show you for now. So that is how I use Book Creator in my classroom. Yes, now I just need to learn how to stop sharing.
That's terrific, Bonnie. You've done a great job there. I hope we're going to run out of time because you're going to make me look pretty bad if I have to follow that. So thanks for that. So we'll try to flick back over to Liz, and you might be able to walk those few steps over there and assist her in getting her screen up and running. So as we said before, Liz is keen to use technology to support children, continue to be active learners in the classroom, and we'll see how she goes second time round. You'll have to unmute there too, Liz.
Yeah. See, I can still see you now.
That's good. We had you there.
Where did my little, it's up there now. Can you hear me? Oh,
Yep, that's good.
Oh.
We can hear you and see you.
Okay, I'm not muted. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
All fine, Liz.
All right. Can you see that screen? Is that all working?
Yes.
All right. So using Pear Deck in the classroom, Bonnie and I teach year 3. So last year we used this mainly in a HASS unit that we did because we wanted to have the students be active learners, not just sitting there listening to lots of facts, inspiring them to become more inquiry-based learners. Okay, so with Pear Deck, it is a Google add-on. So what you'll need to do is go to a Google slide, and then up the top there is this add-ons button. So I already have it installed there, but if you haven't got that, you go down here to get add-ons, and you'll just be able to get Pear Deck that way. And once you open it up, you'll see on the right-hand side, it gives you lots and lots of inspiration for exciting lessons. Those are templates, and this, they're all there ready for you to add in. They give you ideas for the beginning, the during, and the end, but you can use them anywhere you like in your slide. I just want to go through a couple to show you the different ways you can get the students involved. When it is a slide like this is what they call a drawing slide. So the kids can actually draw their answer, or they can type it in text. So it's a good way to sort of start your lesson off of getting their prior knowledge for that one. Once you've sort of, working through your lesson, this is another way that you can get the students to let you know how they're feeling about what's going on. And when the students join the Pear Deck presentation, they can add dots to this one. You can make it anonymous so that you can see all their answers, but they don't know whose answers are who. So for the little ones who are feeling a bit over sad, like this guy, I'm not quite sure, it's good for them to see that there might be other students feeling exactly the same way. This is another template they have for you. It's a question one. So it gives your students a chance to write their response along there. If you're going through your presentation and you have another question, you can add that along the way. So a question pops up, you can, have the flexibility to add in another answer. Another question, sorry. This is another interactive one that they have. You can have a different background. You can have any pictures you like. This one was for the guys to draw a line, to match where they could find those different geographical places in the world. True, false was another one, just to sort of check that learning along the way to see how you're going with your lessons. Another one, to draw the line from the answer, matching up. In this one, you can just ask a simple question and they can just put their dot on, how they're feeling about what they've learnt that lesson. When you open up when you've made your Google slide of your for your Pear Deck, over here we're in the green button there is present the lesson. So you present that and you'll be given a code that the children then go to joinpd.com. Get there. So they'll get this code. They always have a catch little acronym. So if you are using the same lesson several times, they'll get to learn it. You'll see here it says waiting for students. So down the bottom, this red dot here will let you know how many students have connected to your lesson. So you know if someone's having trouble, but not letting you know they need an extra hand, you can go and find out who hasn't joined yet. So they enter the code in there and then you get to lesson. So these are a couple of slides that I took. I know they're a bit fuzzy, apologies for that we used last year with them. So this was to draw a type 2 things you already know about Fiji. Fiji is a great place to snorkel. Fiji is a great place to go to, and you can go on cruises there. And then this one was matching up Australia, Fiji, and New Zealand within our house unit for year 3. And then at the very end, another way just to gauge how they've been going with their learning, they can draw a circle around how they feel about the whole Pear Deck situation. Okay, that's all for now. Thank you very much. And
good on you, Liz, and thanks for showing the resilience there to keep going with that despite having a few hassles. And look, questions are at the heart of what we want kids to be asking, and anything to inspire kids to be getting more actively involved in what we teach them is the way to go. So look, I'm going to give this a burl now. So Michelle McIntosh from St Ursula's College was going to join us this afternoon. She got stuck with an after-school supervision, so wasn't able to, but what she did was record on Loom some information that she'd had for us this afternoon, what she was going to present live. So I'm not sure how it's going to go as a video. Sometimes it's a bit ragged when we do it this way. So we'll give it a burl. If it doesn't work, then we'll just kill that. But I have provided the links to Michelle's Loom sessions in the back channel that I provided. And you can have a look at those because she's done a great job. So, as I said, Michelle is from St Ursula's College. She's a year 7, 8, 9 science teacher and a year 8 mathematics teacher. What drives Michelle is her passion for the environment, sustainability and STEM. She's been to a couple of Google summits and is currently working towards her Google certification. She's been engaging with Loom, Flipgrid and Doc's voice to text, as well as Google Classroom, which has really changed the way she provides feedback to students and the way that they give feedback to each other in order to learn. So I'm going to have to do some presenting. So if this doesn't work, can someone give me a shout and we'll see what's going on. So can you see that okay?
Yes.
All good.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we'll just start this. And again, if you can let me know how bad it is. When I say bad, I'm just talking about lag and those sorts of things, not the quality. It's all good, Michelle.
Paul, if there's supposed to be some sound, I haven't got any sound for it. I can see that Michelle's talking in the corner, but that's all.
Okay, so thanks for that. Look, it looks like the sound isn't working there, so we'll have to just give that a bit of a swerve. I was worried that there might not be, it might not work. It might not work as well as it might have. So what I'll do is I will jump in and do the presentation I prepared, which is on co-spaces. So again, I'll have to share this. So give me a sec, and we'll just make sure this is going to work. And if someone can let me know if it doesn't share properly, please. Right, so is that all good?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. So a bit like what Bonnie did and what Liz did, this will just be a short, sharp introduction of the whole purpose of a SLAM. If you want some more information, then perhaps we can make that available at some other time. So I'm going to introduce you to CoSpaces EDU. So CoSpaces is an intuitive educational technology enabling students and teachers to easily build their own 3D creations, animate them with code, and explore them in virtual or augmented reality. So to go to CoSpaces, you can either find the link in the bottom of the slide deck I shared, or you can just Google cospaces.edu, cospaces.edu, and it will take you to this page. The beauty of CoSpaces is that it does link with Google, so you can use your single sign-on to log in, and that's really helpful, particularly with younger kids, not to have to have additional passwords. If you are going to use this and you can pair it with some Google Cardboard that you might have or a VR headset, I think you'll find it's going to be a real winner. But when you get into CoSpaces, you'll find this sort of environment. So I'm looking at CoSpaces simply as a free tool, not any of the paid versions. And I'll just take you into this and just show you just a couple of things that it can do. So what I did here was, I'm just going to let that load. Sorry, I've just got to zoom out a little bit. So what I tried to do here in this part of it is to make a museum. So I've been looking at women in science, and I thought, oh well, let's see if we can create a women in science museum. So I did this collaboratively with myself on another computer, and we built this small museum, which you can walk into, you can zoom around, and if you've got a VR headset, you can explore it fully. So it's really, really good. If you can see a few other odd bod things here. This red ball is an object that I'd created in Tinkercad just to show you that you can import objects from somewhere else. This object up the back here is a dinosaur. Now, most of this stuff is what we call low poly in 3D terms. So it looks like a dinosaur when we start exploring it, but it's not It's not like what we might see in the movies with, stuff that's really well rendered. To add something to the library, it's as simple as this. Find a character like a girl, drag her into the scene, and then we've got a number of tools here to either lift her off the ground, rotate her using different axes, or scale her, again, simply by dragging her. So it's really easy to do those things like lift, scale, or rotate. It works really, really seamlessly. As I said, what I looked at here was just creating a museum, and I could see that you could go through and create all sorts of things with your kids in a whole range of learning areas, from HASS to science, and even in maths. The end product can be shared with almost anyone. So we've got a button up the top here, which allows us to share it. And that then is just produced as a URL, which can be shared with parents or other people. I did show you those objects that were done in Tinkercad, and that's really easy and incredibly easy just to drag those objects into Tinkercad or SketchUp. And once again, if you work through the slide deck I prepared, you'll be able to find a tutorial on how to do that. The other thing you can look at doing is grabbing an iPhone or a similar smartphone, creating a 360-degree video using Google Street View, and I've dragged this video or imported this video into CoSpaces, and then what I've done is I've added a couple of other characters like a casual girl, a mouse, and when we click on play, you can scan through and have a virtual tour of the workplace and all the crud on my desk. Now I could see that being useful in a school where you could have a virtual tour of a classroom or a virtual tour of parts of the school. So it's a tool that is really, really easy to use and I think exceptionally intuitive to use. The other thing is there's a whole bunch of pre-prepared stuff in the galleries, which again is easy to use. I've used them mainly from the inspiration point of view to see the sorts of things that we might do, but you have to keep in mind that some of those are done on the pro version, so it's not going to be the same as what you would do on the free version that I'm using here. Once again, go onto the CoSpaces website and you'll see what the free version allows you to do, and I think it's a great place to start. And that's a slam. So look, guys, just after 4:30, we should be finished by now. Just a couple of things that I'd like to do. First of all, I'd like to go through and thank those people who've joined us here this afternoon, because they're the ones that have made it. So I'd like to thank Devon, I'd like to thank Riaz, I'd like to thank Bonnie, I'd like to thank Liz, and also Michelle, who joined us, albeit not in a face-to-face environment. We'll look to try to hold more of these GEG events. So I was talking to Mackay today. Mackay are keen to host one up there. We're such a diverse region. There's not a lot we can do with face-to-face meetings. It's just not an easy thing to do. So I think we're pretty much stuck with some sort of video hookup. But what we need to do is keep sharing and keep spreading the word about how these tools can improve teaching and learning for our kids, because that's why we're here. If you've jumped onto the back channel, there's also a form there. If you can fill that in, to say that you are here, and if you can provide any information that can help us make this a more worthwhile experience, I'd encourage you to do so. I'd encourage you to join the GEG, but at this stage, as many of you would know, Google Plus is going to disappear. So until we know what's going to happen with Google Plus exactly and how the GEG will interact with people, it doesn't seem like a lot of point getting you to do that. The other thing I would mention is just briefly that we won't be having a Google Summit this year in September, but instead, as some of you would know, we're looking to host a conference ourselves called Disrupt 2019. So if you've got something you want to contribute or be a presenter, please don't hesitate to contact me, and we'll make sure we find a spot for you. again, thanks to Devon, Riaz, Shell, Lorraine, Liz and Bonnie. Really appreciate your time, and I hope you got something from it this afternoon. Thanks.